Today on the RH podcast on AI, we have Soundar Srinivasan. He's the director of Microsoft's AI Development and Acceleration Group.
I asked myself, is this what I want to do for the next several years? Or I explore the opportunities.
If you like the podcast in general, just subscribe, and I'll see you at the end of the video.
I know that you're a director at Microsoft for AI development and the acceleration program, and it's quite a unique sort of opportunity. And I would just like you to sort of describe, what it's like for you to contribute on a daily basis, and sort of what it's like in your sort of department, and what you guys are trying to achieve at Microsoft.
Yeah, so Microsoft has been investing in AI for a really long time. Our program started roughly about 6 years ago. The goal was primarily twofold. One is a recognition that Microsoft needs a lot more AI talent, a lot more AI expertise. But there was also recognition that AI is going to disrupt not just the tech industry, but all industries. So there's a lot of competition for talent. There's not a lot of expertise that university system have set up to graduate for. And AI being a relatively new field, there's not a lot of expertise in industry either. So in assessing the competitive landscape, we wanted to create something differentiating to attract people to Microsoft. That was one of the motivations. This gives them an advantage point to AI opportunities, but also team culture, location, product interest, tech stack, what you will, at Microsoft, and allows them to go after their passion. So a lot of what we do is, on the product side, innovate for new AI capabilities. We don't typically take on the day-to-day innovation. We also don't do long-term innovation. That is the scope of Microsoft research. So we get in between, where we take in what we think is possible, but it's not clear how or if at all, in the near term, meaning like 6 to 24 months, and we find a way to accelerate that innovation, right? So it's a combination of those. So basically, that's pretty much what my team does. On one hand, help people through this exponential learning framework get very deeply acquainted with the practical aspects of developing these world-class AI systems. And on the other hand, help product teams bring the latest state-of-the-art research into engineering and product definitions of these products.
So it sounds like a mix of an applied lab and almost like an education platform for other departments.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't call it a lab because sometimes the lab has a notion it's being separate and it's sort of doing its own thing. We don't sit and think of stuff to do on our own. We basically look at the challenges the product teams that want to collaborate with us have, and we basically look at the next generation of challenges that they have, and then find where we can add value by an acceleration of this expertise. We have also not just scientists on the team, we have engineers, roughly in equal proportions, and we have significant amount of product management. So basically what we are looking at a new opportunity and seeing whether we have expertise to help the product team advance that capability. So it's very applied. And the educational aspect is, I would say, less of teaching in the classical sense. It's more of accelerating your career, where you get by virtue of working on these hard problems, you have to push the envelope. So there's technical learning that happens, but also these are like the most important problems for the company. So you get exposure to the leadership of the organization. You learn how to communicate to the executives. You learn how to work in an interdisciplinary setting. You learn the practical aspects of launching a product that goes to, at Microsoft scale, hundreds of millions of users. So there is, learning from that perspective on those dimensions.
No, so yeah, so it's okay. So let's if we slice that up a little bit. Well, I basically want to figure out how you make that possible in a way, right? Because there's so many different aspects to it. It's almost like it's a pipeline. It sounds like, you can tell me if it sounds like a pipeline from research to practicality, but not just from a technical point of view, but also from these are all the ways that you're going to have to interact with other parts of the organization that makes whatever you do make possible or implementable or practical. So there's a sort of like a wide breadth of skill sets that at the end of this that you're going to have to ingest, whatever the cycle is. So that's a complex thing to structure. And it's almost like a mix of an MBA and a technical degree. So,
Again, it's less pedantic, but
yeah, no, fair enough. More applied. So more, and I would assume also a shorter time frame. So I'd like to slice up how do you make that possible. So what's the first thing you would say you think of when you're trying to get a person from zero to your goal? So what's the underlying principle or axiom?
Yeah, so it all starts with identifying where the opportunities in the organization are. At any given point in time, we can tackle roughly about 8 to 10 opportunities. So it starts with what those opportunities look like, what type of technical skills they map to, or what type of innovation needs they map to. And a lot of the things that we get asked to support, we unfortunately have to say no to. So it has to be a mix of things that are highly important for the organization, things that we can contribute, but also because we, like you mentioned, we are an outside team, sort of like this notion of lab, right? So we don't have deep domain expertise into the products. That's why we collaborate with the product teams. So we also have to be cognizant of how much onboarding we need to do into the domains, how much domain expertise we need. So it's sort of finding the sweet spot first. And then I feel like the uniqueness of the program that we have is in exactly the ability to onboard people and get them to deliver and get them to collaborate in an interdisciplinary manner. We have not only engineers on the team, we also have tech leads and managers on the team. They do the heavy lifting of scoping the work, providing regular ongoing feedback, clarifying the different options. So there are it runs like a typical agile development process. So from that perspective, it's not different, except that this it is innovation. So it is not regular product development. So there is we have to account for things like failures, allow for exploration overhead. Roughly 70% of the work that we do tend to be very successful. That's way more than what we anticipated. So when we started, we thought, okay, if we get like a 30% success rate, that would be great. But I think it goes to a careful vetting that we have the opportunities. And over time, we have built this muscle of like, we know how to onboard people, we know how to collaborate. We actually, because we started out in New England area, and Microsoft's product center of mass is on the West Coast. So we actually started doing the hybrid and remote collaborations day before everybody was supposed to do in the COVID. So a lot of that muscle we had developed going into the last few years, and all of those on a good set.
So it seems like you're maximally flexible. You've been maximally flexible on almost all all axes, from the way that you build things and how you integrate it to even the way you work. So you're experimenting on all kinds. You've been experimenting on all different layers in all different ways.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that excited me about taking on this role. It was an opportunity to build this ground up, and you don't get those opportunities in large companies. So I was super excited. But exactly, we had opportunity to experiment on all these dimensions and figure out like what works and what are things we need to continue to get better at.
What do you consider your vetting process for innovation? This is one question I wanted to ask you, because you talked about it, making sure that you get the right things that make sense for you. So what do you consider that? You've said that accounts for most of your success, making the right choices, and I think that in life that's generally true. So how do you make that happen? How do you think about making choices for innovative solutions? Because a lot of people are thinking about how to do that for their lives when they want to make something. How viable is it?
Yeah, so I think most of research or tech innovation, it comes down to three things, right? Like, why this problem, why now, and why us? So if you have good answers to all those three, then I feel like, that's the best we can do. It's still a big risk. If there's no risk, then, I would say it's regular development. It's not innovation, it's not research, or at least like breakthrough type of iteration. So we start with why now, and some of it is there are capabilities that, for example, generative AI is now enabling, which didn't exist before. So that could be part of it, but also maybe the market is a lot more ripe for the innovation now than before. That sort of goes into the market fit assessment type of thing. And why this particular technical problem that solved? Why can't the problem be solved in other manner? Do you even need AI? And of course, like there is now with the AI, generative AI hype cycle, every problem looks like a generative AI problem. And of course, that's not necessary or useful. So we try to also look at different options and find if this is not only the most cost-effective option, but also is this the most customer-centric option? Is this thinking about users? And the last thing is why us? So why do we believe that, starting with like a Microsoft level, why do we believe Microsoft can succeed with this innovation? To more nitty-gritty details of, do we have that expertise on the team to deliver? But also, do we feel we have an opportunity to do a good collaboration with the product team? Because sometimes the product team is running so fast and they have to fight so many fires with their existing product and existing users that maybe now is they don't have the bandwidth to do the collaboration with. So all those things have to align for us to have a reasonable chance of success. And even with that, like as I said, like not everything succeeds. So these are good prerequisites that we have seen.
You talked about, but you also talked about you bring onboard and offboard talent regularly because are there situations where you still don't have the talent for one reason or another?
Yeah, there is because of the nature of this process, there is a gap between the identifying opportunities of collaboration to bringing on the talent, and sometimes that timing doesn't work out well. There are cadences in the recruiting cycle. So if you miss that particular window of opportunity, that causes actually not to say that it can't be overcome. This is just practical aspects of bringing people on board. And then the other aspect, one of the reasons why I think the program has been very successful is the innovation is continued and put on a good place to succeed. After it leaves our program, we are the people who go with the innovation to the team and continue the innovation on the product teams. So it's I've seen not just here at Microsoft, but with my previous work, but also speaking to my colleagues in other industries, other companies. One of the big challenges for tech transfer or innovation is there's a mismatch in expertise between the folks creating the innovation and the folks consuming the innovation. And one of the models that we employ through this talent transfer, so not just tech transfer, but the talent that goes with the tech, that's passionate about the innovation, so they have a lot of emotional stake in making sure that the innovation succeeds. That allows and the ability for them to follow up in the product team has been a significant contributor to success. It's almost like you have your own startup and point, like even if you get bought out, you still want to remain on board and see it succeed. So there's that personal connection that we tap into as.
Yeah. So I know you also had some experience at I think it's Robert Bosch, and how did this opportunity emerge from that experience? Being able to get into Microsoft and lead these teams. How did Robert Bosch sort of prepare you and then sort of make it so that you were the right person to be on this project?
Yeah. So and Bosch, we were some of the earliest folks doing AI, and when we started working on these type of technologies, there were a lot of questions regarding the fact that these systems can fail, and these are not, failing at the rate of 1 in a million, right? That's the type of failures that the company had previously been used to. They are the world's biggest automotive supplier, so you don't want your car parts to fail at the same rate as your AI solutions. It's quite a reason. I got a lot of insights into, as I said, like what works in research and what the gaps are in bringing those innovations into the product teams. So in fact, one of the things I did there was to move out of research, where I originally started with Bosch, based on the recognition of the need that innovation needs comprehensive and interdisciplinary support, which research alone is not able to provide. So that was one of the key self-discoveries that I had that was helpful in my previous role, which I was able to bring it to my current job. And the other one, most recently, what I did before joining Microsoft was what we call key product challenges. It's sort of like a product moonshots. So, for example, in the Bosch world, that meant in the autonomous driving space, how can we bring autonomous driving into urban environments? This was in like 2016, where we were seeing a lot of successes with highway driving, but it wasn't clear, like, how do you drive with these vehicles in crowded urban environments like in New York or LA or Chicago or San Francisco, and of course not to mention much more congested cities in Europe and Asia.
Rough. I can't imagine. I can't imagine, autonomous driving in France or something. It's a different sort of driving.
Yeah, definitely the technology has come a long way now, but at the time that was exactly one of the goals that we pursued. Like, how do we accelerate that by bringing in all these disciplines together in a focused manner? Of course, a lot of success in these type of woodshotting effort comes down to prioritization first. So we were, I got heading that initiative. I got some exposure to that as well. So all of those learnings I brought in, and of course at Microsoft scale, the question was not whether we need AI. The question is like, what are the right opportunities, and what is the right way to care and develop and retain our talent. So they were a slightly different set of questions, but I think that experience served me well in creating this pretty much a ground up program.
And from what I know, your PhD was actually in speech recognition. So how, you seem to be, you've done quite a lot of innovative things in general, and you don't seem afraid to sort of jump into a different cycle. So I guess that theme is consistent. But what made you go from speech recognition to sort of almost a different kind of modality now, which is visual representation? So what made you go in that from sound to light, basically?
Yeah, I was thinking less in terms of modality. My recognition was the machine learning that is behind it is much more universally applicable.
Because it's light, or because of the math?
I would say the math, right, and also some of the compute tech stack that goes into it. That's somewhat similar. but when I finished my PhD, it was sort of still the winter of AI, where it was not necessarily fashionable to be in AI. It was definitely also the winter of speech recognition. A lot of progress there was a 200% or 0.5%. And I asked myself, is this what I want to do for the next several years? Or do I take the technical abilities that my education has afforded me and explore the opportunities? And in fact, even before autonomous driving, that's one of the first areas that I started researching at Bosch was on small-scale sensor network applications. So this is when small-scale sensor networks, and I mean, sounds a very fancier term, but practically an example of this is like an iPhone. So before you had smartphones, now we don't realize that these phones have all these sensors. Now you see there are all these applications that come out, and like your phone can detect your heart performance, but definitely track many physical parameters. So what can you do with that data that previously you didn't have? And similarly, there are all these sensors that are embedded in your environment, motion sensors or video cameras, or humidity sensors or other things. So ultimately, it's a different source of data. In some ways, these are similar to speech in terms of the data coming in a streaming fashion. And the question was, how do we bring in some interest or some knowledge from these data sources? So from a technology perspective, these are quite similar types of problems. Obviously, application domains are different. Like when I was doing my PhD, I was primarily focusing on two things. One is making hearing aids more smart.
Right. What does that mean? What do you mean by smart?
Yeah, so when you're at a party, right? Let's say you have a hearing aid. Typically, a lot of what these hearing aids do is amplify the volume. But amplifying the volume can be quite annoying if you're at a party, right? Like when you have not only somebody else that you're just trying to speak to, but a lot of music and maybe cutlery noise, and maybe other things like somebody yelling, screaming. Like you don't want everything to get amplified. That becomes more unbearable. So a lot of what we had seen was people would turn off their hearing aids because the value they were getting, it was just overwhelming noise. So how do you? But we don't, as humans, have that problem. When we go to a party, we can sort of ignore these background sound sources and have a good conversation, even in the loudest of environment. Of course, it's not perfect. Maybe there's a chance that you may have to ask the person to repeat a few times, but it's still not gotten to a point where you're like, okay, I can't have a conversation anymore. And so that was one of the applications. And of course, the other was the one that we experienced just in starting this podcast. How do you create a noise robust speech recognition system? How do you with a far-field microphone, without a headphone, how do you get rid of background noise? How do you get rid of echoes? And sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, like, the way I was approaching this was by trying to understand how does our auditory system solve this problem? What makes humans so robust and these artificial systems so fragile? And what can we learn in terms of processing architectures that we could bring into practical systems? And turns out this was before, this was in the early 2000s, so long before deep neural networks and stuff like that. But we had very similar ideas. We did realize there's a need for some top-down attention in addition to bottom-up processing. We did use some neural networks, but a lot of it was also extracted and not compiled.
Say the last part again. What kind of models?
Hidden Markov models.
What are those?
So you can think of those as like an extension of finite state machines, except being in a state is not deterministic. It depends. It has a probabilistic transition to being in a state.
Yeah, which is kind of like neural networks in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of good connection. Where the underlying theory, the mathematics of training these systems, they all carry over fairly well.
Okay, so I mean, you've done all this and sort of been able to transition at least quite, from the foundational idea is sort of the same, but went from sound to light. How are you when you think about onboarding people into this space and getting them to understand it quickly? Like, how do you teach AI quickly, even if the person is quite technical, to the point where it has utility and even utility to the market? I mean, that's that's a very there's a lot of people trying to do that right now. To be honest, now that the wave is here, promising AI expertise in a short amount of time for a nominal fee. But how are you actually able to do this consistently over time? And how have you been able to do it?
Yeah, we don't teach AI. I think what people get out of working with us is how do you make these innovations in the AI happen, right? So there is a theoretical aspect. So we bring in people who have theoretical expertise, and we don't we place a premium on a few different things. One is good theoretical knowledge, because one of the other things that we are seeing right now, or the generative AI space, for example, and that was always true in the case of AI, is tools and technologies change very rapidly, and resources. So we put less to no premium on knowing a particular framework, doing a particular programming language, and things like that. But understanding the math behind it, but also not everything that we do is science. So on the other disciplines, we have a good sense of how do you create these distributed systems, how do you create these memory or compute-intensive systems. And on the product side, do you have a flair for innovation? Do you understand how to take the right risk? Do you understand how do you go from 0 to 1 type of customer journey and identify the right opportunities? But also, how do you go through that journey to make it practical? So I think those are the sort of qualities that
I think that's still an education in one way or another.
Yeah, so no, that's what I was saying. Like that's sort of like our vetting process, and then they come into the program, they get to practice this, right? And some of those they succeed. Some of those we have the option to learn from our students. There are many things that actually work well for us. One is the diversity of Microsoft's products, to go from the entire stack on the cloud to things like the productivity suite of products and gaming, not to mention hundreds of other products. So that's a lot of diversity, and we can use the diversity to not only explore, but also learn quickly. So we don't have to necessarily be focused on one product and learn only from what works in the product and with that particular market segment, with that particular customer base. So we see a lot of panels, a lot of things that we can learn, and patterns that we can extract from different domains, different group of technologies, and learn from our peers as well. So I think that is one helpful thing. The second thing is there's our customers trust Microsoft. We place a premium on our customers' data. We are very different about what we'll use the data for, and so there's a lot more trust in us than some of the other organizations. And we can tap into trust in understanding better their needs. So we have access to doing alpha, beta type of interaction with our users that allows us to learn and iterate fast. And sometimes we find that the core idea that we had doesn't really meet what the customers need or want. So we can quickly pivot. So I think I would say from the challenge is less of although right now in generative AI everybody's also trying to figure out like what the right set of orchestration tools, and how do you do this efficiently, cost-effective manner, and all that stuff. But more generally in AI, the AI has always been a very expensive hammer. So what is the right user scenarios for which this would result in a positive ROI? Yeah, that's the biggest thing that we have tackle. And then I think over the years we have done like 100 of such innovations. So we have opportunities to also go back, you look at like, hey, how did we tackle a similar problem in the past? What can we
100 or so innovations. That's pretty good.
So the program has a vibrant group of people who are now on the other end of the innovation. So they continue to invest the program through the feedback that they provide us. So there's a continual learning that's going on.
I'd like to dig into how exactly you pick innovation. So what is do you have a framework to decide what is worth it for you to go into? Obviously there's skill sets, what kind of skill sets you have, and that's sort of the easier layer. But the secondary layer of like being able to see that this is something that can enter the market and really be useful based on your understanding of the market, or even based on your understanding of the ecosystem you have internally in Microsoft. So how do you make that decision, and how do you really suss out to get to the point where you can get to 70% utility for the things that you've picked so far?
I would say a lot of our process is not necessarily unique. We start with primary research. We look at what market research reports and insights that we can rely on.
So are you looking for trends? Are you looking for stability and interest? Sort of what are you looking for when you're talking about micro research?
I would say, what is, what are the typical products that people are asking for? What is, so trends in a sort of more a little bit micro level, so not trends in terms of like generative AI is a trend, right? But I think you break it down one level further, people are looking for productivity assistance, right? So to get to that level of insight, that is kind of what allows us to then go a little bit further. So within that whole space, where do we begin? Where should we invest? A lot of that information comes from the collaboration partners who are, who have a lot more access to the end customer on a regular basis. So we look at regular customer feedback, we understand the gaps in our product portfolio, but we also look at what our competition is doing, and maybe also not this competition, like what other players in that space are doing. What is sort of the unmet need that, for example, like startups are going after? What does it indicate about our product gaps? Those are additional things that we can learn. I mean, of course, at Microsoft scale, we don't go after every opportunity. It also has to be a significant market potential. So we have to look at what's the total addressable market for these type of opportunities, and what is our go-to-market strategy, right? So there are a lot of substantial successful applications in the consumer space. Microsoft big plays in commercial or enterprise space. So some of we also have to look at like whether the way to succeed in those domains fits well with our commercialization track record.
Got it. So I guess another question I had related to this is, what was this question? So innovation. Sort of is the theme of the questions I've been asking you so far, and in terms of how you make that happen. But I think, there's innovation, and there's also making it so making sure that you're able to get something done in a short amount of time. And innovation is very hard to say that, okay, I can make a fantastic leverage a fantastic discovery or leverage the utility in 2 months or something like that. but that's something you consistently have to do. So how do you approach that? So you've talked about, how do you manage the team and how you understand how the market behaves. Now, how do you actually execute that?
Yeah, so I think it starts with understanding what is the role that we play in this whole product development process, right? And that is primarily in de-risking the technology gap. So what that means is we become very laser focused on what exactly is the thing that we have to either prove can work or prove that it doesn't work. So we don't take on a very broad scope. So by restricting the scope, I wouldn't even call it like an MVP in a classical sense, because we don't go fully to the market either. So we get to the point where we get some initial user feedback, but we are primarily just taking that core idea, like, is this feasible? Is it feasible with the current state of the art, or with maybe an obvious extension? And once we demonstrate that, then we are done. So I think that our focus is what allows us to be very fast, and we approach it like a product development. So we have a lot of ideas backlog that we look at what is the next thing that we could do in the next 2 weeks that allows us to either validate or learn more about what we don't know about this product space. So I think it's staying disciplined, and it's we also typically set ourselves a hard timeline of 6 months. Sometimes we extend it to as much as a couple of years, but I would say most of the innovation that we do, either we can show it's feasible in about 6 months, or we can show that this doesn't work. With of course, there's a heavy long tail of this.
Fair enough. So I want to move the segment into a little bit about how to get started in this, because I think a lot of people are interested in, at least now, in AI. You sort of got into the market after your PhD in a bit of a dry zone. You made it out of that dry zone, but I think now people are super interested in AI and how to get, a lot of young people are thinking about how to get into it. It's interesting because I think it'd be interesting to hear your advice, because you got in when it wasn't popular, now it is. So what is the fundamental thing that you should have when you want to get into this field, regardless of what experience you have in the market after you've learned what you need to learn?
So I would say the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what is the role that you see yourself playing? Like, do you see yourself in the role of an AI creator? Meaning, do you see yourself advancing fundamental AI capabilities? Or do you see yourself in the role of bringing these AI capabilities to users and improving their experience? Right? Those are very different set of skills. I think for the former, good fundamental foundational knowledge in mathematics, statistics, engineering, that amount. So spending the sufficient time not in a traditional academic setting or in online course setting, I think there is no work around that. But if you are more interested in hey, how do I take this innovation and create additional innovation on top and bring new products to the market, new things that they let users, new things that improve the user productivity, then what you want to do is to find ways to be constantly updated on the state of the art, and this is where in addition to whatever be fundamental education skills that you already have, you may want to rely on podcasts or newsletters, meetups, conferences. I always find conferences and meetups a good way to quickly gather vast amount of knowledge and shift through them to what I actually care about. So staying connected to those spaces. Generative AI is right now, for example, I'm finding it very challenging to sort through all the innovations. So I also have to prioritize to focus on like. If you are, for example, in the business of creating a chatbot, then you want to focus on those things. And there are good options in the social media now that allows you to at least get a starting point. And then you can go ahead and to the level of detail that you need. Some of the things about AI. Sorry, go ahead.
So you talked about sifting through information. I think in this age is absolutely, it's a challenge. It's its own piece of work. So how do you approach that? There's so much. We're not even talking about necessarily what is and isn't true that is sort of is brought out, but there's so much information to ingest for you just to catch up, and people. It's a tough thing, It's you can't have a hobby. You have to have a full-time commitment, and these days, which and the amount of time in anyone's life has maintained itself to be 24 hours in a day, unfortunately. So how do you manage that? How do you with all these newsletters and all that? But these are really just links for you to keep going and learning more, which is fine. But if you just still again don't have that much time, so are you able to stay up to date, especially with a lab or not? I think you pushed back on the idea that it is a lab, but I guess a responsibility to manage as well and still keep up to date, right?
I try to be realistic and also focused on the innovation that I really care about. So there are a few topics that I want to follow more closely. That's around the science of generative AI, that is orchestration of AI applications, user experiences. Anything else, I don't have the bandwidth to go after. So I think staying disciplined is basically what helps. And when I look for good aggregator sources, things like surveys or meetups or conferences, I think those tend to be places where you get good summaries brought to you, and that allows you to also cover any blind spots that you have in your investigation
and your knowledge base. What wasn't I'm kind of surprised you talked about conferences as a place where a lot of information is shared for you and has a lot of value for you. What is it about having those conferences that is it that they tends to be newer information that comes through, or it's just like?
I think it's a breadth. Like I typically tend to go to. I would say when I talk about conferences, I'm talking a little bit more scientific than one sort of like a Western thing, which can become quite salesy.
Yeah, it's a performance a little bit. It's a show.
Exactly to your point. I think these other conferences, they bring the latest innovation, but they also bring in diversity. If they are large enough, there are 5 or 6 large teams that each of these events tackle, and each of those type of venues also have a slightly different focus. Some are like very theoretical, some are very applied, and some in between. Some are NLP focused, some are computer vision focused, some are more application agnostic ML focused. So you can mix and match, and you get I would say the two things, like one is the latest, the state of the art, but also diversity. That both are important. So
in subject matter.
Yeah.
Right. So if a young person was trying to get into the field, how would you, and especially, these things change all the time, but what would you say is the most interesting part of AI you've seen so far? Obviously, generative AI, generally speaking, but what is it that, maybe needs the most work and has the most blue ocean to swim in and find innovation? So what do you think that is?
I think AI is, I would say right now, just at the cusp of impacting our entire life. Right? I think what you're seeing is now more like eye-catchy type of application. What I'm excited about are things like healthcare and biotech, where as read recently a report that about 30% of world's data is generated in that space. But if you look at the amount of innovation from a technology perspective that has happened, that's big tally. So I think that's a ripe area. But even others, other places like, for example, the way we are interacting right now, that also feels a little clunky in the current world. Like, how do you make this more seamless, and how do you help people, as we also talked about at the beginning, how do you help people stay organized? How do you support people in their work? Work and life is also blurring, and people have needs that for that to be blending seamlessly. Like, how do you support those? So there's, I think, what you might see in the next couple of years are these first type of applications that happen, and then if you're interested in research in this field, I would say the science of understanding how these work and why hallucinations or fabrications happen. I think those are pretty rich areas to explore. Another one is how do you mitigate biases in these systems? There's a lot of talk in the media of responsible AI, but that's really overloaded or breaking down into things like interpretability, things like fairness, things like debiasing. And lastly, a new area that has come up, which didn't exist before, is like, how do you make this AI system secure? So we talk about what can AI do for you, right? But the converse is also important. Like, how do you prevent these systems from being jailbroken? How do you prevent prompt injection attacks or safeguard against prompt injection attacks? So I think those are just beginning to get explored. So I think there's the next say 2 to 5 years, I would see those as good opportunities to invest yourself in.
The healthcare is very compelling. The healthcare angle is very compelling. 30% of data is in healthcare, and it's not being touched.
The percentage of GDP that Western world is diverse to healthcare, it is just outside on the Western world, because the issue the global South is just catching up to reaching on the same level. So ultimately, the whole world will need these type of investments, and yet the general perception is effectiveness is far below what seems needed or desirable. So, what's the role that AI can play? Again, AI is often thought as a new tool, as opposed to what I would advocate is use AI to take a fresh look at the problem. Not as like, okay, there are like 7 steps to the problem, I can use AI to solve like step 6 or step 7. I think that's where currently you find a lot of frustration with AI innovation. People try this out. They find for the cost of investment, it's not as valuable. So there's a lot of excitement, but there is also some quickly building
and pull back. Right. So the AI security problem too is attaches to that, because it is there's some there's personal data that in a way, when people use AI, they're going to use it very personally because the interface is very personally, and so the security problem becomes a little bit higher, and the accuracy problem still needs to be solved as well. So there are actually quite some fundamental issues that a person can come in and really contribute to, but it is very exciting. So like I do want to keep this conversation to a space where you can still go and do what you have to do for the day, because it is a Sunday for you. I'm sure you want to do other things. So thank you so much for joining the conversation. It was very insightful. I think I always want to make sure that people can be able to reach out to our guests in a way that suits them. So if there's any place that you would want people to reach out to you, where would that be?
Yeah, I think personally to reach out to me would be via my LinkedIn profile, and then I'll also drop some links to where they can see work of my team, work
Right.
of some of the products that we have had impact.
Right.
And there's a lot of places at Microsoft where people can plug into and stay connected and learn and contribute to. So I'll drop a few of those.
Please do.
Yeah, in the chat as well.
Yeah. If you actually, it's fine. If you are there some you would like to talk about? Like some of the things that people are using right now that you've been able to touch?
Yeah, I can give a couple of examples. I'll start with one that I like to quote often because actually it was the very first project that we took on and we had no idea of this succeeding. But if you use any of our latest Office suite of products, whether it's like Word, PowerPoint, Excel,
Right.
you would find what is called like a contextual floaty, which is like if you work in a particular section of the document, the menu is customized to what you are trying to do at that particular space, right? And people point it at. So there is an understanding of what you're trying to do there, and not serve you the entire set of menu options. So that was one of the first solutions that our team have created. I'm pretty proud of that because that's actually used by the hundreds of millions of users already.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then on the Generative AI front, we have Microsoft has an exciting new product called Loop. So if you haven't used Loop, I would encourage you to go check it out. Loop has a thing called Copilot, like many other of the Microsoft products are beginning to have now. But that was actually the first, one of the very first generative AI products that we innovate on.
Right.
So go check it out and go check out the Loop Copilot too.
Yeah. Loop and some of the contextual floating menus on the Microsoft suite of products. Well, thank you so much for joining, and hopefully you continue to innovate. And I'd love to see you back on the program and with some new cool things and maybe some of these problems solved.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Thanks. It was great speaking with you. And I'll drop the information with you and encourage your listeners to reach out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Take care.